Okay, so one more time. How do you get prepared for the exam? Every test, get every test, put them in order, go through and review all your short answer, go through and review all your matching, go through and review all your fill in the blanks, go through all of that, every single test all the way through. Then take the areas of focus and start in the beginning and work toward the latest tests and work on the areas that are listed. Again, as you work through and look at your problems on the test, you should be thinking, do I remember how to do this? Can I follow how to do this? Anything that you're not sure of, go to your notes, look up that section in your notes and review. That's what you need to do if you're going to be prepared for your final exam. All right, so I gave you guys, we're going to do a bunch of problems. Right now, no calculator because we're going to review part one. So go ahead and put your calculators away. Shouldn't have them out. No calculators out. Part one is without a calculator. I'm all goofed up on my wire here. Come out, wherever you are. Yes, Jordan. Always before class starts, Jordan, right? Always. Okay, so I relisted what's on the sheet, the focus sheet that I gave you guys, like a month ago, right? And so some of you probably lost it. Well, there it is again for you. These are the areas that you're going to have to concentrate on. These are the key areas that students need to know from pre-algebra to be able to be successful in algebra. Should you know everything else? Yes. Again, math's not like history. You got to know it all. It's just the way it is. You have to know everything. And so, but these are the things that we were focused on for the final exam for this course. So again, I say all the short answers that's listed there, the rules. By the way, I did add, hey, Chapter 9 quizzes, right? All the rules, you're going to have a rules section, review order of operations, review all the matching. All right, so let's get down to actual problems. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 problems there of adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing positive and negative numbers. We'll get to more of them on the next page. Go ahead and do those 6 problems. I'm going to pause the video, so you should pause it at home, because in a moment I'm going to show the answers. Okay, so number 1, you say 35 negatives, 27 positives. That leaves you 8 negatives, right? B, 39 negatives and 54 positives, and that leaves you, what, 15 positives. C, 45 positives and 76 negatives. 45, 55, 65, 75, and one more 76. And there's more what's? Negatives, negative 31. Oh, I love my letters. Very creative. B again on the bottom. 22 minus 10 is 12. That is the easiest problem of them all. Let's see about the second C down here and see how many got this one right. 39 negatives and 12 more negatives. 49, negative 51. How many got that correct? All right, good. You guys have trained your brain, right? We started the year with, hey, let's train our brain. And that's good. Many of you remember. And then this one, just remember, 2 negatives is positive. And that's a 53. How many went 6 for 6? 6 for 6. All right, good. That's good. Any questions on any of those? Any questions on any of those? Very good then. All right. Let's go ahead and fill in the rules for multiplication and dividing. Just the top 4. You know what? You can do them all. Do the top 4 and the bottom 4. Fill in the 8 rules. In other words, positive times a positive is a, negative times a negative is a, positive divided by positive is a, negative divided by a negative is a. Okay. Should take you just a second. These should be snap things that are in your memory. Again, you may not have enough time to finish if you're not so snap, because I want to do as much as I can in reviewing. Positive times a positive is a. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive divided by positive is a negative divided by negative is a. I am positive of all that. Positive times a negative is a negative times a positive is a positive divided by a negative is a negative divided by a positive is a. All right, you guys are so negative, I'll tell you. All right, go ahead and do F through I. Messed up my color on G, didn't I? All right, I got to remember to pause this thing and unpause it. If you guys will help me out, it'll make life a lot better watching it if it's paused and stuff. Okay, so F, positive times a negative is a negative, so you said negative 15. G, negative times a negative is positive, so you said positive 14. H, negative divided by negative is positive, so you said 4. What did you do with I? First you said it was a negative, right? And then I hope you reduced it. 6 times 7 and 5 times 6. Looks like a negative 7/5. How many got I correct? All right. That one would be a reducing. Do we do decimals with stuff like that? No. Only if there's decimals to begin with and in certain situations. Otherwise, we leave them as improper fractions. Again, anywhere along the line, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question. Okay, those should come across as pretty easy. When you guys see that section on your test, you should be happy and say, good, piece of cake. All right, order of operations. I need somebody to raise their hand and quote the order of operations. Give me the order of operations. Adam? Perfect, right? Exponents, multiply and divide left to right, and subtract left to right. All right, do A. Again, I'm going to pause now if I remember on every one of these. All right, so obviously the big deal on this one is doing that right there, right? A negative 8 divided by a positive 4 is a negative 2. 32 negatives and 2 more are 34 negatives, and 10 more are 44 negatives. How many got that correct? And again, take note of what's tripping you up and try not to make that mistake again the next time. All right, try B. All right, so hopefully you said that's a 6, so 8 negatives and 6 more negatives, 14 negatives. However, we've got the old negative. A negative is a plus, and how many got 24? All right, not as many. So again, take note of what led you astray. Take note of what led you astray. Negative 2 times a positive 3 is a negative 6. That's a negative 6. 8 negatives and 6 more negatives, 14 negatives. What happens when you get a negative outside of a parentheses? You got 2 negatives in a row. They're a positive. 10 and 14 is 24. Any questions about that? Andrew. Okay, so let me clear it out for you. All right, so there's 2 ways you can look at that negative in front of the 2, Andrew. You can keep it with the 2 and say a negative 2 times a positive 3 is a negative 6. That's one way. Or you can look at it this way And you can leave it there and say 2 times 3 is a 6, but now there's still a negative in front. Either way, you end up with a negative 6. So 8 negatives and 6 more negatives. All right, anybody else on that one? All right, do we have, what, one more left at the page? All right, so now do the big mogambo there. Are you there? Go inside the parentheses first. That's a negative 4, right? Now you're in the brackets. Kyle, can you get that door for us, please? Thanks, John. He was working, so that's why I said you, but that's okay. All right, now we're inside the brackets. I got to do exponents. There are none. Multiplication, division, left to right. So the first thing I get to, again, two ways you can look at it. A negative 8 divided by a 2 is a negative 4. The next thing I have now inside the bracket is this negative 4 times this negative 4. That is a positive 16. Now I'm still in the bracket. 12 negatives and 16 positives, 4 positives. And let me rewrite where I'm at. Right, that's where we're at. 4 times 4 is 16. 2 times 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. Answer, negative 16. Anybody get it? Bravo. Bravo. Again, a lot of pitfalls in a problem like that. What's the moral of the story? If you have time on Wednesday, I would definitely go back and do that problem again if you have time. Again, you don't want to do it while you're going through the problems. You got to wait till you're done with everything. And then if you have time, any kind of order of operation problems that are big like that, I'd try a second time just to make sure you didn't make a mistake. Because again, how many operations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 different things or so that you had to get correct. And so be careful. Whoa. I just did that wrong. Where are all the Kool-Aid people out there? Oh, you Kool-Aid people. You just drank it in and said, oh, it tastes so good, I'll just drink in the Kool-Aid. Brother. That's, hey, right here, you got to do that multiplication first. You have got to, you have got to, you have got to, you have got to. Order of operations. Multiplication before that addition. We have a 2 times a negative 48. How about a negative 46? How many got that? That would be the correct answer, negative 46. Come on, you Kool-Aid people. You shouldn't drink it. You should have had your hand up saying, Mr. Scarfi, wasn't that a negative 3 times a 16 for a negative 48? Jordan. So let me rewrite where we're at that point. This is where we were. A 2, a minus sign, a 3, a brace, and a 16. Order of operations. All exponents, multiplication, division, left to right, then addition and subtraction. I must do this multiplication first before I deal with that 2. And again, I'll remind you from day 1, this is the exact same thing. But again, in math, we don't put the extra stuff in there. Okay? So you got to do that negative 3 times that 16 and then deal with that 2. Otherwise, you're going to get it wrong just like I did a moment ago. Come on. Stick up for yourself. All right. So be careful with order of operations. As you can see, you can, in a second, and that, actually, I didn't do it on purpose, but it illustrates the point. On problems like that, I would go back and do them a second time. And let me remind you one thing. I tried to tell you this in the beginning of the year. It's why I told you when you do a problem wrong that's an odd, you're supposed to put an X on the problem and try again from the beginning. It's a rare thing to look back at your work and not do the exact same mistake the second time. It's hard to find your own mistakes in your work. Your brain does the same thing again. But if you start the problem over again, now you got a chance your brain won't make the same mistake. But if you're just looking over what you did, 9 times out of 10, your brain's going to do the exact same thing, and you really didn't benefit yourself at all. So again, with an order of operation, if you get through the whole test and you got time, I would then stop, rewrite the problem again, and try it one more time if you've got the time. Okay, let's move on to fractions. Big part of part one is fractions. You've got to know how to do your fractions. You got to know how to do them without a calculator. You know, it used to be a day and age when calculators did not do fractions. Amen. Glory, hallelujah. Those were the good days for Americans. The bad days were when calculators started doing fractions. Because again, we're supposed to learn how to do them on easy things with numbers so we can do them later on harder things with letters and variables. So we got to get these down. Fractions are not hard. There's not a ton of rules. There's about 3 different rules. If you get them, you got fractions. So let's make sure we're good to go. It will be a thorn in your flesh all of Algebra 1 if you don't get your fractions down. So if you don't have them down yet, in the next couple days, get them down and get it over with so that you go into algebra in the shape that you need to be. Okay, so really I'm going to start with multiplying. If I were writing a textbook, I would do multiplying way before adding, because to add, you got to know how to multiply. So anyhow, multiply. Real easy, right? Top times top, bottom times bottom. We all know the rule. I thought I was in red, but that's okay. A times C over B times D, right? Piece of cake. And remember that ever important acronym, which is, don't forget ARBUM, or you'll be a bum. So one more time here. Technically, you'd write it out like this. But we really started, once we got the concept down, we started doing any reducing right there and not even showing that last step, and that's fine. But I just want to refresh your memory. How did it all start? With a negative 2 times a 3 and a 5 times 7. And we all know that's a negative 6 over 35, right? But again, we'll ARBUM right at the beginning if we can. All right, go ahead and do B. I don't think you need to show the rule step on these multiplying ones, especially because we're going to reduce when we can. B should be a 5-second problem, right? Any reducing? So you're just going to say negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 8 is 24, and that's it, right? Am I going to change it to a mixed number? No. However, if I had 2 mixed numbers to begin with, then I would, right? But I did not, and we'll just leave it as an improper fraction and roll on. All right, what would you do with C? And then do D and E. Do C, D, and E. I'm going to pause the video. How many of you think you have probably all of your tests? Let me see your hands. Okay, all the wise ones. All the rest of you, not so wise. Told you from day one to make sure you hold on to them. All right, here we go. So hopefully on number or letter C, you said this is a negative 2/5 times a negative 2/5 times a negative 2/5. No reducing, but negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Positive 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 is 125. How many got that correct? Negative 8 over 125, right? Just cube it. Again, be careful with your signs. Hey, D, is D going to be positive or negative? Check. When you're checking over your paper, you're done with all the problems and you're going back and checking, check your signs every time, right? You know a negative times a positive is a negative. Make sure your answer is negative. Okay, did you ARBUM? All right, I hope so. So this is going to be negative. I'm going to stick my negative sign right there so I don't forget about it. 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 3 times 5, 4 times 5. What do we got? So a 5 and a 5, a 2 and a 2. That's it, huh? So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16, negative 9/16. How many got that right? All right, bravo. And then the last one, negative divided by a negative is a? Positive. Hope you got a positive answer. All right, Arbum. The 3's there are gone. 4's there are gone. So again, we end up with a, should have crossed that out, a negative 2 over a negative 5, which again is a 2/5. But again, if I think of my sign ahead of time, it's so much easier. You don't have to worry about messing a sign up when you're done. How many got all 3 of those correct? Okay. And take note if something's giving you trouble. Take note of that kind and work on it. Any questions on those 3? Jack. Letter what? D. Uh-huh. How? You got 2 3's on the top and 2 4's on the bottom. Right? And 3's and 4's don't divide out. So, yeah, nope, not on that one. Okay. Go ahead and do F. Just do F. And then we'll do G after that. Do F. Okay, hopefully you said, remember the technique is this, right? Over 4. So again, what is this? This is a negative 9/4, right? Again, some of you don't bother with the parentheses, and you call that a negative 7/4. You go negative 8 plus 1. That's not what it is. It is not negative 8 plus 1. It's negative 2 times 4 plus 1. It's a negative 9. How many had negative 9/4? Yes, see, that's why I chose this one. A lot of people forget that, and they want to put negative 7/4. That's not what it is. It's negative the 2 times 4 plus 1. So it's a negative 9. This is a 6 over 1. We can arbum a little. 2's divide out. Negative 9 times 3 is a negative 27 over 2. This one is split. We had a whole number and an improper fraction or a mixed number. I would take it either way. So either negative 27 over 2 or what is that, negative 13 and a half. Either way would be okay with me. Okay, with that knowledge, go ahead and do G. I'm going to pause. Okay, so this one is again a negative 9/2, right? The 4 and 2 is a half instead of a fourth like the other one. And this one is a negative 8/3, right? Arbum. Oh, by the way, our answer is going to be what? Positive. So I don't have to worry about my signs now. 2's divide out, 3's divide out, and this thing is what, just 12? How many got that correct? All right, much better. Refresh your memory on the negative mixed numbers, right? Don't goof up your negative mixed numbers. Capiche? All right. All right, so then we get to dividing. Gee, that's hard. What does your brain say when you see a dividing of fractions? What does your brain say? Go ahead, you can say it. Hopefully it says invert the second one, right? Which is the reciprocal. And instead of now dividing, you are multiplying, right? So again, how do you divide fractions? Invert. Invert means reciprocal. Invert the divisor and multiply. And again, once you're on the multiplication step, arbum. You cannot arbum on the division step. You can't arbum there. No. Okay, you will get it wrong. You can arbum on the multiplication step. All right, piece of cake. Go ahead and do A. And let's do B as well. Do A and B. Be careful of your signs. Okay, so hopefully you're just working your way through. Is at this point we can R-bum if we can. Yes, we can, right? Our 4's divide out. Hey, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Make sure you don't goof up your sign. Negatives, remember, always go out in front or in the top. What do I got left on the top of 3? What do I got left on the bottom of 10? And you should have gotten negative 3/10. How many got that right? Okay. And then the last one, negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you know this thing is positive. You can now not worry about any of your signs. A lot of reducing here. So a 5 and a 5, a 2 and a 2. Is that it? That's all. 6/35. All right. And we will continue on here tomorrow. Goodbye.